All right, welcome. Today, we're going to dive into a really powerful idea, something that can help us navigate, life's biggest challenges and find some real peace when everything just feels, well, chaotic. It's a concept called Tevekkul, and honestly, it might just change how you think about stress, your job, and the future.
But let's start with a question for you. Think about that feeling of being completely overwhelmed, the constant anxiety, the weight of everything you feel like you have to control. You know what I'm talking about. That huge project at work, worrying about a family member's health, your finances. Why do we carry all of that by ourselves? What if we don't actually have to?
Okay, so let's get into it. This concept we're exploring today, Tevekkul, is presented as this powerful, timeless answer to so much of the stress and anxiety we all deal with in our modern lives. And we're not talking about just a nice, fluffy idea here. It's framed as a really essential tool for, just being well.
So what is Tevekkul exactly? Well, it comes from Islamic spiritual tradition, and at its heart, it's this deep, profound trust in a divine plan. And this is so important, this is not about just sitting back and passively waiting for things to happen to you. The root word, wakale, literally means to entrust. It's an active choice you make to appoint an agent to handle your affairs. Now, this whole idea of an agent, or vakil in Arabic, this is where it gets super interesting. See, in our world, when we hear the word agent, we think of one thing, but in the spiritual context, it means something totally different. And honestly, understanding this distinction, well, it changes everything. So check this out. It lays out the core misunderstanding perfectly. Normally, we think of an agent, like a lawyer or a real estate agent, as someone who works for us, right? We're the boss, we're the owner. But when you appoint God as your wakil, the whole thing flips. The roles are completely reversed. Suddenly, you're not the owner of the property or the outcome anymore. He is the master, and you're the one acting on his authority. And this quote from the source material just hits the nail on the head. It's a massive shift in your mindset. You're going from being the owner, the one in control, to being a caretaker, the one who serves and trusts. So think about it. Whether you're stressing about a huge presentation at work or a loved one's health, the idea is you're the caretaker of your efforts, but you're not the owner of the outcome. That right there is the foundation of Tevekkul.
Okay, so if this isn't about being passive and just letting things happen, how does it actually work? Like in real life, how do you do this? Well, the framework we're looking at gives us a really clear three-step formula. But first, we've got to clear up one of the biggest mistakes people make when they think about this whole thing.
Right, this is so crucial. Tevekkul does not mean you stop trying. Actually, it's the opposite. It demands that you do your homework. You are 100% encouraged to make plans, to do the research, to find the best doctor, to build the best business strategy. The key is knowing where to draw the line. You do all the work, but then you let go of your emotional grip on the final result. You stop trying to interfere with what's ultimately not in your hands anyway.
And that brings us to the two classic ways people get this wrong. On one side, you've got the fatalist. This is the person who just shrugs and says, whatever happens, happens, and then does absolutely nothing. The source material calls us what it is, laziness, not trust. Then on the complete other side, you've got the workaholic. They do everything, they control every little detail, but they refuse to entrust the outcome. They just agonize over it, and it leads straight to burnout. Both of them are completely missing the point. So what's the right way to do it? It's laid out for us in a really simple three-step process. Step 1. Before you even start, you mentally hand over ownership of the final result. Just decide, this outcome isn't mine. Step 2. You perform your part with total excellence. You do everything in your power. You work hard. And step 3, you peacefully accept whatever happens, good or bad, because you know you did your part, and the rest was never up to you in the first place. Okay, now to make this whole idea really stick, the source uses this simple but, man, it's a powerful story. It's an analogy about two guys on a ship, and it just perfectly shows you the difference between someone who gets Tevekkul and someone who doesn't. So picture this. You've got this huge, powerful ship, and two men get on board. Both of them are carrying these really heavy burdens, not just in backpacks, but literally balancing stuff on their heads. One of these guys is wise. The other one, he's foolish and anxious. So the wise man, as soon as he steps on the ship, he puts his burden down, right there on the deck. He even sits on it and just relaxes. Why? Because he gets it. He understands this simple fact. The ship is strong enough to carry him and his luggage. He doesn't need to do the ship's job for it. But the other guy,
People see him struggling, and they tell him, "Hey, put your stuff down." And he refuses. He says, "No way. I'm not putting my burden down. I am strong, and I'm going to protect my property on my own back." So out of this weird mix of pride and anxiety, he just keeps straining under this heavy load, even while the ship is doing all the real work underneath him.
So, this leads to the big question, and it's kind of obvious, but it's also really deep. Who is actually carrying the burdens of both men? The one on the deck and the one still on the guy's back?
It's the ship. Of course it's the ship. The ship is carrying everything anyway. The foolish man's struggle does literally nothing to help. It just makes him tired and miserable for no reason. And that is the perfect picture of someone who refuses to trust. They exhaust themselves carrying a burden that is already being carried for them.
So here's the big takeaway. True Tevekkul isn't ignoring your burden. It's not pretending your luggage doesn't exist. You still have to do the work. You have to pack it, get it to the dock, and haul it onto the ship. That's your part. But once you're on that ship, once you've done everything you can, it's about having the wisdom to finally set the burden down and trust the ship you're already on.
And that really brings us to the final question for you. Think about your own life, all the anxieties and burdens you're carrying around on your back right now. Which one of those could you set down today? Which one could you entrust to the ship you're already on? It's a pretty powerful thing to think about. Thanks for joining me.